Matt, you need to leave this marriage. Those words landed like a thunderclap when I was in my therapist's office over a decade ago at this point. I remember sitting there just absolutely stunned with 1,000 thoughts crashing through my mind. I had 3 kids. How could I possibly walk away and miss the majority of their childhood? The weight of that decision felt absolutely crushing. I never imagined I'd be the person contemplating this. Yet here I was, grappling with a truth I couldn't ignore. I remember the moment I sat in front of the couple's counselor and I said out loud after I rehearsed so many times in the mirror, I said, I've come here today to find an exit strategy for this marriage. Fear was everywhere in that moment leading up to it, in my chest, my mind, my bones. The fear of failure, the fear of loss, the fear of what life might become for me, what I'd be doing to my kids. But there was something else there too, a quiet but insistent pull, like this compass needle tugging me toward a life, pointing somewhere that I couldn't clearly see yet, but I knew I had to pursue it. You see, in that moment, fear offered me 2 paths. One was to let it stop me, to let it chain me to a marriage and life that was quickly breaking me down. The other one was to let it light the way. Let's dive in. Welcome to Uncage Yourself. I'm Matt Doan. On this show, we explore strategies to help family-focused professionals smartly graduate corporate life and build entrepreneurial freedom. Our goal? Maximize freedom, income, and impact. See MatthewDoan.com for more. Now, let's dive in. So leaving my marriage, that was the hardest decision I had ever made up to that point. I never thought I'd be that person. I had to make a clean break. I had to reinvent myself, to get healthy again, to hopefully become a great dad, which is what I really prided my identity on. But I wasn't living up to it. And I had to make a brave decision to brave the fear and actually do something that enabled that outcome, to get healthy again, be a good dad. That's all that mattered to me. I needed to fix things. So at that point, I was letting fear crush me. Then I said, nope, it's going to light the way. Now, when we think about fear, we got to realize that that fear can do a lot to us. We can let it cripple us for a decade. Fear had owned me for many years at that point, sitting in a marriage that sucked and made me a very miserable shell of a person. Most important move I ever made. Not long after, handful of years later, after I rebuilt my life, got remarried to the person I was supposed to be with, I zoomed forward. The end of my corporate career, after I'd taken that job, compressed it, turned it into a tool, started an entrepreneurial path on the side, then came the next big fear moment where I sat down. I remember this specifically in February of 2022, which I had planned 6 months in advance. I called my managing director when I was at Boston Consulting Group, BCG, and I said, it's time. I'm going out on my own. Again, in that moment, fear was present. Despite having strategized and built for this for years, I'd been thinking about an entrepreneurial path, leaving corporate for years. After 15 years in the system, I knew I needed to go on. I needed to graduate. And at that point, 4 kids, married, 2 mortgages, all the things. Upcoming college costs for my oldest kids, all of it. That moment, I was staring down the fear of leaving that lovely, stable career. And I was facing the fear of stepping into the unknown, the fear of failure. Like, what could life be without a paycheck? Holy crap, what's that going to mean? But it was also the same time, this compass, again, that same one which said, you got to leave this marriage, is the same thing which said, you've got to get out of this corporate system. You've got to go see what you're made of, who you can be, what you can make, what you can earn, the impact you can do, the inspiration you can be for your family. That was the needle pointing that direction too. It told me, go that way. Again, I didn't know exactly what all those turns would look like. I had ideas. They were fanciful ones. They didn't come true that way. Took a lot of twists and turns since then, but I had to go that direction. That fear, you've got some right now. Think about the fear you feel, about the big change you know you need to make, but you keep justifying and saying, I can't do it. Not right now. It's too big. It's too risky. How long will you let that fester? Whether it's about something in your career, like graduating corporate life, building that first business. Oh, what will people think? Will I get in trouble? I can't have a voice online. What will my spouse think? Could I ever make money? All these fears, which are just that, fears, not real, but fears, stories going through your head, owning your decisions, crippling you, caging you in a place that you know you no longer belong. You feel that fear. It's that racing heart, those restless nights, that knot in your stomach. And it's rarely just about danger. It's actual not danger. It's a signal, an inner signal, a message from your inner self that's saying, hey, something ain't right here. We better do something. We better make a change. And you know what I'm talking about. That voice, that signal inside, it only grows louder. It doesn't go away and go quieter. You don't switch jobs if you don't like that style of living and the job magically makes everything better. No, it might make it more manageable, but it's not the right overall move for you. We've got to move to something much more complete of a transformation. So I talk about all the time in corporate graduation, the whole framework. Work on creating space, upgrade yourself. Those are permanent upgrades. And then you move to the system piece, which is like, how do you figure out the business vehicle, the career path that's entrepreneurial in nature? You've got to go through a complete transformation. We're not talking about simple income replacement. As hard as that piece is, it has to be a much more complete thing if you're going to graduate corporate life. And again, you fear different things. The obvious one is like, hey, I fear losing my paycheck and the stability that it provides. Or maybe it's the fear of identity loss, that sinking feeling that you've been playing this one role for so long that your 20-year-old self decided you were going to choose this path. And you've been gripped to it ever since. And you don't know who you really are anymore, how people would perceive you. People know you as the SVP of sales of this bank. Okay. Can you live without that identity? Can you craft a new one? Can you shape perception? Can you try on a new shirt, put on a new hat, use some different labels that feel right to you if you want to use labels at all? Or maybe it's the fear of letting your family down. That's very real. I know that one through and through. I still feel that every single day. You fear not being able to be that provider, that core presence that your family deserves. That's a very real one. Not to say it's easy, but to get beyond that and think about yourself in as a different type of provider, doing it in a different way, it's huge. Or let's just step back and maybe it's the fear of risk itself, where you're programmed not to take risks. You've been conditioned since you were 2 or 3. Don't touch that hot stove. Bad things happen. Don't say things to people. Don't go out of line. Don't step outside the box. Choose the smart thing. Choose the sensible thing. The good school, the good job, the good marriage. I remember that one. Yeah. So we got to embrace risk differently ourselves because we could live protecting the downside forever. Well, let's don't let bad things happen. Or we can flip a risk on its head and be like, what's the upside of me doing something different here? If I were bold, what would I do? What might be possible if I were bold long enough to make it real? See, most people, they'd rather just silence these fears, suppress them, say, shut up, fears, you don't count. You're too scary. Go away. I'm not going to pay attention to you. I can't engage you. I got to go back to being safe, stable, and sensible, and maybe miserable. They try to ignore or suppress all these fears, hoping that they'll fade. But that only makes the gap between who you are and who you're meant to be grow wider. And that gap, it hurts. That gap between your outer self and that inner self, we talked about that in episode 159, where you show up as that outer self, delivering, complying, doing what the outside world tells you. But your inner self, that inner self is just screaming, restless, awake, becoming, saying, I need to be something more. Let me out of this cage. It's aligning those two, that inner self and the outer self. That's the heart of corporate graduation when they feel natural, where how you show up to the outside world is how you feel in your inside world. Isn't that everything? Isn't that ultimately everything we want is getting to that state, right? Even on the other side of money is to just feel alignment, feel peace, to feel like we're living a life that we're supposed to, and it feels authentic. Graduating beyond corporate life, it isn't just about quitting a job, as you can see here. So I don't shortchange you or give you these superficial topics of, oh, let's make 10 or 20K in a month and life is free. No, it's so much deeper than that. We're going to talk about fears and using it as the thing that light the way. Okay, that's why I'm talking about topics like this, not just the tactical stuff that ChatGPT can throw you in a heartbeat. That's the easy stuff compared to the things I'm talking about. That's why I spend time here. Here, in navigating fear, you're talking about navigating that messy middle, this internal journey where fear is not just a barrier, but it's a guide. Ryan Holiday would say the obstacle is the way. Go through that obstacle. Go through it, crush it, knock it down, keep moving, right? You can't leave behind what no longer serves you, what limits you. We can't have these things gripping us anymore. So fear is actually something you can use to your advantage, because without using fear to inspire bold action, you'll never elevate to who you know you're meant to be, to the life you're meant to create, to the business you're meant to build, right? To the person you're supposed to be in your home life. That's why you've got to see fear as a compass, the fear compass, okay? You want to start turning blockers into pathways and say, okay, I see you. I'm scared of losing income, it going down. I'm scared of losing my identity, the provider role. I'm uncertain about X, Y, and Z, all this failure talk. Yeah, I'm fearing all of that. And I'm going to engage it, because everything you want, as the quote says, is on the other side of fear. There's a pretty simple framework I want to install with you. It's called the fear compass. It's this little mental model I've used for navigating all this uncertainty and going through fears and turning blockers into pathways. It goes like this: notice, name, narrow, navigate. First is notice. Notice the fear. Don't run from the racing heart or that tight chest. Actually pay attention to what's surfacing. Shine a light on it. Secondly, name it. What exactly are you afraid of? Be specific. Are you afraid of income loss, shame, being alone, your family members being mad at you? Get honest about specifically what you're afraid of. Name it. Give words to it. Thirdly, narrow your focus. Zoom in and say what parts of this fear are within your control. Because all we can ever do is control the controllables, right? We can't control stuff outside of us. So what are facts versus what are stories that your mind is telling you? Separate the two. Ask, what can you control? Few things like, hey, you know what? First and foremost, I'm tired of this job owning me. I'm only going to go to 5 out of the 10 meetings on my calendar tomorrow. You can control that. You can engage that fear. It's a powerful step forward. Small example there. And then fourthly, navigate. Choose your next step, whether it's small or bold, that moves you closer to this vision you have for yourself. This is courage in action. So you want to go through fear. The fear compass says, notice the fear, name it, then narrow your focus. Specifically, what can I do here? And then navigate. Take one small step forward at a time until you develop new habits, new outcomes, new rituals, right? Let me highlight just a few fears that my clients and everyone I talk to out here working to engage themselves goes through, okay? Maybe it's having the hardest conversation of your life, for example, telling your spouse that, you know what? The negative energy we have at our home, it's not sustainable. We need to fix this. Another one might be acknowledging to yourself in the mirror that ageism is now a factor in your career and therefore your finances. And it requires some self-reliance, not corporate dependence. Maybe it's finally starting to build your own personal brand out there so the world knows what you think, what you're capable of. And it's not just your corporate title. Or maybe it's removing toxic people or habits from your life that keep you stuck in a past that no longer serves you. Each of these examples serve as a compass reading, a signal that says, no more of that. Move in this direction instead. This, not that. Simple black and white things. If it doesn't feel good, you need to minimize it. Move towards what feels better. Simple energy dynamics. Because the cost of ignoring these signals are very high. And I'll tell you, speaking from experience with myself and my clients, it shows up as disease, like cancer, jolting up awake at 3 a.m. because you're stressed about what the next day of meetings will look like. You've got this horrible tension in relationships at home, or this just plain shrinking future filled with regret and this disconnect from the potential, the person you know you're meant to be. Now, on the other side of that, when you let fear light the way, you use it as a compass, the payoffs for engaging these fears is the remedy for all that pain. It's as simple as that. You see a fear. Is it a fear worth engaging? Let's break through it. Because on the other side of engaging that fear, it's like this. It's what I get to experience these days. It's mornings where your energy is yours. It's no longer drained by endless meetings or corporate treadmills. It's confidence to leave behind what no longer fits, where you have real plans, real purpose. It might be building a business, a project, a platform online that ignites you, that serves others, that gets people saying, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I love your ideas. Can we work together?" Or it might be the comfort of a tribe of people in your life. Maybe you got a coaching program, mentors, whatever, a mastermind in your life of people that finally get you on what you feel and what you want. Or it might be watching your children light up when they see you being courageous, taking bold moves, because that's going to inspire on how they live the rest of their life. If you're living this confined, terrible life in a cage, they're going to think, "Oh my God, that's what I have to do as an adult too." They're going to think that subconsciously. They're going to act that way. I know you don't want that for them. I didn't want that for my kids. That's why I stepped out. You just want to get to this place where you've got this peace, where you have this life, where your outer self, your inner self, they align. No more conflict. Like, remove that friction as much as possible. And it takes bravery. And you're going to have to let fear light the way rather than block you. Now, I encourage you, if you need help, a jumpstart, I encourage you to jump into one of our corporate graduation labs. This is a workshop environment we run every so often. You can check it out at lab.corporategraduation.com. It's a very special place. We ask that everyone applies. We handpick who shows up. And if corporate graduation and like going through all these fears is something you know you need to do and are willing to do, trust me, you're going to love that environment. It's a couple hours that are going to rock your world. You're going to face some truths. You're going to learn what it really takes to pull off corporate graduation and everything involved. So check that out at lab.corporategraduation.com or see the link in the show notes. Final message here. You've got to let fear light the way. Not all fears obviously are worth engaging, but the right ones, you'll know which ones are, right? So here's my challenge to you. 3 questions. Number 1, what's the big fear you're avoiding right now? Stare it down. Be honest. Number 2, what would happen if you faced it with curiosity and not resistance? What's possible? And then number 3, what would it look like to use your fear compass to find your path forward? What if you let fear light the way? Lean into those questions. Let the answers guide you. It'll change everything as it did for me, because your wildly better next chapter absolutely depends on letting fear light the way. We'll chat soon. See you out there. Thanks for listening to Uncage Yourself. Check out MatthewDoan.com to subscribe to the podcast and view our services and helpful resources. If you enjoy the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, or just tell a friend. Talk soon.